Today I have 5 live hands with concrete examples for you that I analyze so that you can use those takeaways in your next poker game. First hand, we have a crazy one. I call it the green juice tell or the drinking tell. In my entire career, I am 1 out of 20, I think, of people drinking and bluffing whenever they turn around and then slowly take a sip of their drink. 19 out of 20 times, they just have the absolute nuts. And here I found one example where you can see the 1 out of 20 times, the 5%er of when that's not the case. Let's take a look at the hand.
There's some green juice drinking.
Drink that green juice.
Could be a tell.
Look at Al. Maybe he's
Oh,
folding the aces.
Folding
Face up.
the aces.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
So in this particular hand, I think it's so funny to watch. I mean, when you look at him, how he's acting, you can see that he's frantically trying to get something into his hands to keep him busy. He takes the 1 cup, takes a sip of that, then puts the cup away, then takes the big green juice, then chugging on that. Looks so different than someone. Normally what they do is they just lean back, take their glass of water, slowly drink, enjoy the moment. They have the nuts, they're sitting there, they're relaxing. But in this case, I feel you can actually feel the vibe that he's more tense, more nervous, that he's like, it's faster speed, is like taking this, putting it there, taking this one, drinking. You can really tell that there's, yeah, like he's frantically trying to keep him busy and do something. But the more extreme thing here with aces is like, it's such a great spot because when you bet and he shoves into you, he never has a set. So you always have the best hand. I think the absolute best hand that the guy could have is like kings or ace queen. So I'm just sitting there, snap calling and loving my life. So I have no idea why the guy folds aces. One of the most absurd plays I've seen, but shout out to the guy with ace king who somehow got him to fold. So well done, nice hand. All right guys, so in this hand, it's all about talking while bluffing on the river or figuring out when your opponent is talking, whether he's bluffing or has value. Here it goes.
Why not just bet it? There's so much out there, just bet it all, right? Save some money in case you're bluffing?
Yes.
Is that really why?
10 seconds.
Oh,
You want him to put it in? You want him to put it in?
understand. Right, so you were, I got it.
You want to give him the
So,
option?
All right, so you're saying your hand's very good.
Okay.
It's better than mine. I guess I'll call him.
3,000.
Yes.
All right, he called. I guess you win.
So in this particular hand, Garrett is playing a big hand against Buzz and Buzz bluffs into him on the river. And I find it really interesting. You see those 5 seconds where Garrett is thinking, and then I think he comes up with the conclusion to start engaging because he has a bad bluff catcher and now he needs more information. So he starts talking to him and the first thing he says is why you don't bet at all or why don't you go all in. And I think it already shows in this response, the way he responds is he's not very comfortable because he doesn't have a good answer to it. I think it's very clear in this particular spot that he just wasn't comfortable to put it all in because I think normally when they have a good hand, players generally play greedy poker. They try to bring all in the middle, especially against a player like Garrett, who's not scared at all. So I think that already is one of the first responses where he gets some good information. And then the second one is when he starts talking, he goes on about like, you know, I don't like folding. I have a good hand. I hate folding. And you can tell the way he answers like, yeah, he's not comfortable at all. And this is not acted. You can tell this very clearly too. So I think a really big read on the river by engaging, by talking, that Garrett could extract here from his opponent, clearly, visibly discomfort and gives away a lot about his hand. Something that would never happen if the guy has a flush or a set. And I think leads very clearly to the guy bluffing. I think very well done by Garrett and a good example why talking on the river can be a crazy live tell. So before we get to the next 3 live tells, if you guys like this type of content, I'd highly appreciate if you sub to the channel. Also, if you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comment box below. We will try to get back to you. And as always, love for your support. So this next hand is all about the eye movement and posture of our opponent in a huge pot that has been played between Mickey, a legend of the cash game, and Garrett. So let's take a look.
Could be a live read here. Yeah, Mickey seemed a little nervous now.
What the fuck does this hand mean? I don't know.
It's a 4-bet pot. He 3-bet out of the small blind, and Garrett 4-bet, and he snap called.
Oh, he's going to try to vape his way to a fold.
This one is much harder to identify while you're in the game with the angle and like really getting a good feeling for that. Much easier when you have a camera pointed at someone. But I find it very interesting from watching. I think I've seen dozens of hours of live stream action of this particular cash game. And I think here it really stands out how you can tell visibly from how he's looking that he's not very comfortable about this particular situation. The way he puts his hand there and really is just looking at what's happening, that's not this level of, I don't care what's gonna happen now, I have a good hand. And this can be kind of the other side. It's also not acting like trying to act weak. I feel it genuinely looks like he's kind of, let's say, mini scared of the action, what's gonna, maybe he calls me, and not very comfortable in this particular situation. So it's very hard to put this into words, but when I've seen this first time, obviously it's always some level of confirmation bias as well, like you see cards and so on, and I'm always trying to be really careful with this. But I think in this spot, you can really see there's a level of discomfort that visibly shows in his eyes, how he's looking, like he's looking towards what his opponent is doing. And that's generally something you tend to do more often when you have weaker hands rather than strong hands. Is he gonna call me or is he not? If you have a stronger hand, you care a little bit less. You're gonna win. If he folds, you're gonna win more. If he calls, there's a little bit more relaxation. Here it feels more like, oh, what if he calls? What if he folds? Like you kind of tense towards the action of your opponent. So I feel this particular spot is a tell based on his posture and his eye movement towards him having a weaker hand. Garrett in the end decides to fold a big laydown. Obviously he has a pretty bad hand on this board. He can have much stronger hands here. I don't blame him for it, it's a huge pot, but I feel in terms of live tells there was something there. Watch out for this one in your next game that you play, whether it's a live tournament or a live cash game. So guys, this next hand is a little bit silly, but it's an old one and it's an acting performance while having a strong hand. And I think this is a super strong tell and always the nuts. Let's take a look.
He's getting action all right. He's getting 3-bet up to 485,000.
Look at this grimacing. It's the show tunes going off in Zoe's head, yet he's acting.
Kevin has flopped top pair, but Zoe has the only overpair of the two aces.
And we're going to the turn.
All in.
All in. Whoa, boy. He gets a quick call.
Well, he's hoping he had the kings. That's exactly the case. A queen. Unbelievable.
So in this particular hand, Zoe has aces and he does the whole like, okay. I mean, I guess I have to 4-bet. It's really annoying, but I have to. And then 4-bets. In my entire career, this has been kings plus 50 out of 50 times. It's always the nuts on the river, on the turn, on the flop, pre-flop. Always, always, always. So a great example of one thing that's 100% a tell for people having strong hands. Once in my life, I want to see it that someone does it really well. Nobody thinks of this with having a bluff. They don't think, oh, let me do an act, kind of make it look like I really hate my hand and then bluff. So it's always like, okay, I have a strong hand, now let me act weak and then do something silly. And it's so much easier to do it with a strong hand. That's why people always have strong hands and do these type of acts. Back then, this was actually much more normal. People have done this multiple times. I've seen it multiple times too. The whole like, oh, my life is so hard and then raising, especially against weaker players or like in not so experienced games. This is something you will sometimes see, and so keep in mind this is always the nuts. I would always fold pre against something like this. Post flop, you just gotta lay it down. It's basically ace king plus, but always kings. In this case, I think you can literally nail him down to aces in all cases, but obviously hard to make a big laydown, hard to fold top pair. In this case, I think pretty straightforward. Now we have the next hand straight in line, and this one is even crazier. I mean, the last one was a little bit Hollywooding pre-flop. I kind of understand, but this one is absolutely insane. The guy is literally sitting there and like, oh, I hate it, but I have to bet.
Canadian has flopped a full house.
Oh, and Jeff moaning first and checks again.
Oh, look, he's shaking his head, Vince.
Call.
Oh, the reluctant call.
Give him a Screen Actors Guild card.
Will with 3 of a kind. Nice slow down there. Oh, look at this. Jeff Vertez can hardly breathe. The McDonald's man looks like he's choking on his own French fry.
This is some serious right here.
He's seen this acting job.
I've seen more Hollywood in my day. This don't feel good, boys.
Oh, no!
Well, he's made the call. You can't lay this hand down, but he wanted to, Vince.
I know it.
Look at
It's
this.
ace queen. I got king queen.
Unbelievable. Will the Thrill didn't lose any more money on this spot than he did.
Actually, well done to the other guy. I mean, he has a good read. He checks back turn. He says it out loud on river, but I think it's a third pot, so he calls it. Good hand reading, good understanding. On river, I kind of understand. I mean, maybe the guy was just Hollywooding with king queen or queen jack. Like, this could happen, but it's just always the nuts. So in spots like this, when there's the sigh and then like the painful bet, I think the commentator said it really nicely too. When they're strong, they act weak, and especially on lower amateur level and players that aren't so experienced, this is such a good rule to go by. People always try to act the opposite unless you really emotionally feel it. Sometimes when people really feel weak, then they're weak, but generally when they try to act the opposite. They do nothing, or like they try to act really strong when they have nothing, or the opposite. So that's generally a rule I always go by that I've done really well with. So try to look for that. Try to distinguish between how they feel. Do they feel comfortable, or you know, what's their acting like? And when they're acting, it's always the opposite, 98% of the time. That's a good rule to go by, and I think this is a prime example. So don't get fooled by this. All right, guys, these were 5 live tells with some pretty cool hands. And if you want to put your live game into action, we have our Poker Code Festival running from the 10th to the 16th of April in the beautiful city of Madrid, in the Casino Gran Via, right in the city. If you want to play live poker with me and play for a few $100,000, then come join us. I would love it. Go to pokercode.com, book your trip, and love to see you there.